You know, ladies and gentlemen, as Secretary of Homeland Security, every day I used to go to work. Before I got to the White House, we gave us a list of threats. I must tell you, in my experience as both Assistant to the President for Homeland Security and as First Secretary, not once, not on one occasion, and there were hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of threats directed at the United States of America, did I ever see a threat directed to the United States from the people of Camp Ashraf, from the People's Mujahideen of Iran, not once. Remember also this, in 2004, our FBI and our Department of Justice went and interrogated every man and woman at Camp Ashraf. And remember this, they concluded unequivocally, without hesitation, none of those individuals had been involved in a terrorist act. They saw no evidence whatsoever that their desire, inclination, attitude, aptitude, or anything else was related to disrupting America, attacking America, or American citizens. No terrorist activity. And even further, the European Union and the United Kingdom assembled jurists. And here I'm calling on my president, who is a lawyer, who said, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the evidence. They both concluded that the MEK is not a terrorist organization. As a matter of fact, the UK said even keeping this group on the terrorist list is perverse. And then our own court, right here in Washington, D.C., the Court of Appeals, said there's nothing in the record to keep these men and women on the terrorist list. The terrorists are in Tehran. They're the mullahs. They're Ahmadinejad. They're the team number one state sponsors around the world. You know, it is amazing to me, as it is to my colleagues in public service who have joined your cause. It's very difficult to look for us, and we've all met the parents of some of those who have died in Tehran. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are kidnapped, tortured, and murdered, just taken off the streets, never to be seen again by their families. We cannot explain it to you, and we're not going to try, but we are going to try to undo the wrong that has been done by convincing this president to take the MEK off the list. Now, the couple of final things I think we need to say publicly in Washington, D.C. As you look at the Arab Spring, and you see all this unrest, this chaos, this desire to break away from the reins of those oppressive governments, there's been extraordinary media coverage. It's amazing. Some of the YouTube incidents have gone viral, but they actually allow reporters in those countries. The reporters have been embedded with the troops on the streets. But one of the facts is that you can't get in to Iran. There are no press availability. They cannot be embedded in Iran. And Mr. President, you know, because you get those threats every day. You see what I see in much greater scale, I'm sure. The terrorist organization most responsible for destabilizing that entire region is the government of Iran. Think about it, Mr. President. Think about it, Mr. President. They are supporting Syria, that's already killed 3,000 innocent civilians. They're probably at the heart of a lot of the unrest in that region, but think about it, Mr. President. And by the way, Mr. President, among those 4,400 Americans, brave men and women, who we sent to free the people of Iraq, not to allow their prime minister and their president and their leaders to ignore the reality of Camp Ashraf, they're complicit. They are complicit. Because they have been working with Iran, and Iran has killed, among those 4,400, Iran is responsible for supporting the militia and providing the IEDs that have killed some of those same men and women that we're so very proud of and grateful for in this country. Mr. President, The facts are clear. The obligation is clear. The consequences of a failure to act are clear. Delist the MEK. Make sure the Security Council puts some blue hats on and gets into that Camp Ashraf to protect them, and extend the deadline before they close Camp Ashraf. If not, the consequences are unspeakable, and we as a country would be appropriately held accountable for those unspeakable consequences. Delist the MEK.
President Obama, listen to us! MEK listing is unjust! President Obama, listen to us! MEK listing is unjust! President Obama, listen to us! MEK listing is unjust! President Obama, listen to us! MEK listing is unjust!
You know, there have been a few events in the past 10 days that hopefully will bring our appeal to our president to focus. The first was the audacious plot to kill a Saudi ambassador here in Washington and obviously American citizens. The second was the violent death of the Libyan leader. And the third was the decision to bring home our troops. And what they all speak to is a incredible period of change and unrest and peril in a very important region of the world, in the Middle East and North Africa. And as you take a look at the countries that have thrown off the yoke of repression, violence, although much of the overthrow has been violent, certainly in Libya, but if you take a look at that, and we're all wishful, we're all hopeful, we all aspire, and I suspect even pray that the evolution from what existed to the future will be peaceful, will be democratic, will be meaningful, that the countries will be tolerant and respectful of human rights, tolerant of differences of religion, will embrace the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion, the freedom of assembly and the freedom of press. But as you look across those countries, you say to yourself, where's that one leader? Where's that single figure out there around whom the country of the opposition can coalesce? Where's the Nelson Mandela? And in none of those countries has one of those leaders emerged. But Iran, again, is different. There has been a leader of the MEK for years and years and years. And many of us have had the privilege to get to know her and spend considerable time with her. Many of us know that she's lost 4 very close relatives fighting for freedom and liberty in a democratic regime in Iran. She's really a rather remarkable woman. But more importantly than her gender is that she is a remarkable, committed, charismatic, inspirational leader. Maryam Rajavi. One of these days, Mr. President, one of these days, Mr. President, I would like to be with the crowd that's assembled here, and literally hundreds of thousands probably from around the world who would assemble here, if she was afforded the same opportunity to come to the United States and speak to the aspirations and hopes and goals of the Iranian people. Every year we tolerate Ahmadinejad coming in and denying 9/11 and denying the Holocaust with his anti-Western, anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-freedom, anti-liberty, anti-Bill of Rights, his message. We know that toxic message. But one of these days, ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope, and I know it's your hope, that we can stand together proudly, with as much enthusiasm and applause as we can possibly muster in our hearts, to welcome, not on television, not on a loudspeaker, the absolute presence of this charismatic leader, Maryam Rajavi. Maryam.